guys, so the iPad Air 4 has been out for about more than a year now. And now we also have the iPad mini 2021 edition that is just recently launched. So should you go for the iPad Air 4 now in the late 2021 or in 2022 as well? So let's find that out. So as of now, I did not see any price drop as such on the iPad Air 4. It's still about 50,000 or so, which it was on launch, and the iPad Mini 2021 edition is also close to that, like 46,000 or so. So both of the iPad devices are really close in the price range. But which one to go for? There are only a couple of differences which we'll discuss in this video. But if you decide to go now for the iPad Air 4, how did it really perform after 1 year of usage? So let's find that out. So first of all, let me tell you my usage with the iPad Air 4. So I bought this iPad basically to edit my YouTube videos because LumaFusion on this big screen is actually more than enough, I would say. It is really good for editing, and that's why I went ahead with the iPad Air 4. It has the A14 Bionic processor, and so the A14 is expected to perform good for heavy applications as well. And that is why my main usage is to edit YouTube videos on this iPad, and also I also use this iPad to record my music covers. So I take my guitar's USB interface and plug it in, and I use BandLab on this iPad Air 4. So in the performance section, we'll also talk about how it's actually proving out for me in terms of performance and the output that it's giving. But that is my rough usage with this iPad. There's also some media consumption, but I just want to let you know that I don't do graphic designing or heavy games on this iPad, but still I have tried those out, so I will talk about those as well. There will be a lot of sections in this video, so feel free to jump to any section that you want to. Now, first of all, coming to the design. Now, when it comes to the design, this iPad Air 4 is the first one to have those squared edge design that it is following that iPhone 12's design, which has a squared edges, and even the iPhone 13s have the same squared edge design. So when it comes to the design, I would say that this squared edge design is much better than the squared edge design of the iPhones, because on iPhones the squared edges do feel a bit jarring, but to hold such a big device with those squared edges actually gives a good grip, and uh, I think it is executed really well on this iPad. The next thing is about the thickness. So this iPad is really slim, even though it is a box-like structure, but still I don't have any issues with the thickness. It's not that thick, and I think that the design section is really executed well on this iPad. Now, talking about the weight, yes, this iPad is a bit heavy, and if you're not keeping it on a stand, if you're using it as handheld and doing media consumption like watching an entire movie or so, then your hands might feel some fatigue because it is a bit heavy. So do keep that in mind, and if you're going to use this iPad mostly for media consumption, then I would suggest looking for a stand, which I'll also try to link in the description below. Now, talking about the negative point of the design, and that is the only one thing I could see, is that it attracts a lot of fingerprints. The moment we took it out from the box in the Apple Store itself, it started getting a lot of fingerprints and smudges all over its body, all over its screen. So if you can get a screen protector for to avoid those smudges and fingerprints, then that would be better, because otherwise it's always going to look shabby. But for me, I have not put any such screen protector, and because my usage does not really impact me with if even if there are fingerprints on the screen. But still, I would suggest to get a good screen protector to avoid those smudges. Now, when it comes to the case, I have been using it with this magnetic flip case, and this case is really amazing. I would put the link of this case in the description below. And I would also suggest that get a similar case to protect your iPad, because even though if it is strong and durable, but it is still a bit of a delicate device. So better to get a good case so that you will be worry free of the damages that can occur. And this case also makes way for the Apple Pencil second generation, which I'm using with this iPad. I will let you know my experience about this pencil with this iPad also further in the video. But yeah, get a case like this, it would really go a long way, because the repair costs on Apple devices can be really like a lot, and even if your screen gets cracked or something, then it might cost you a lot to get the screen replaced. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the display. The iPad Air 4 has a 10.9-inch liquid retina display, so it's basically an LCD display. It's still not an OLED display, but it's a really really good display. Like Apple really knows how to execute. I think Apple is the best one to do LCD displays. I mean, they have the best LCD displays around. Colors are punchy, and also I did not notice any issues as such. But do note that if you're doing a lot of professional designing and video editing, it's still not an OLED display. So the colors, I mean, you won't get that much range of colors in this display. So better to have an adapter and plug it onto an external monitor for that purpose if you have. So, but talking about the bezels are a bit thick on this iPad, but still they do not get in any way, and the edge to edge design actually feels good, and it's good that it does not have a notch or anything as such. Talking about the brightness of the display is bright enough indoors, but outdoors it's not that bright, and the maximum brightness also does not do away a lot, and you might have some difficulties viewing outside. But if your usage is mostly indoors, then you won't face any issues with that. Now the next thing is about the 60 hertz display. It does not have a pro motion display, and to be honest, I really don't feel like the need of a pro motion display, because even in the store when I tried this out, I had kept an iPad Pro side by side with this iPad Air 4, and uh, scrolling on the UI does make you understand the difference between a pro motion and a 60 hertz display. But even in the store, you can definitely tell that if you need that pro motion display or not, because this 60 hertz display is also really smooth, really fluid. Even if you put an iPad Pro with the ProMotion display in front of me, I would not go for the Pro just for the ProMotion display, because this 60 hertz display is fast enough. But there is one thing where the 60 hertz display can come into as a bit of a disadvantage that we'll talk about later in the video. Next thing is the fingerprint sensor. I really like the placement of the fingerprint sensor here, but the thing is that it does not work most of the time. So for me, it works like 40 to 50% of the times. And mostly, I think that whenever I pick up this iPad, I think it goes into some lock mode, and that is why it really does not work, sometimes. But when I continuously start to use it, then it becomes faster. So I think it is putting some automatic lock, which it's not telling me to, which it's not informing that use the passcode now. Like usually when you turn on an Apple device, you need to enter your passcode first, but it's not that case here. But still, the Touch ID does not work most of the times, and usually I'm having to put the passcode only. And with the Touch ID, I usually struggle to open, but it does not open, and I have to go back to the passcode method. But sometimes it does work, and it works really fast. But it's not the fastest fingerprint scanner around. And but see, in day-to-day activities, I did not really notice that much of an issue with that thing, because entering passcode on an iPad device, I mean, if you have to enter passcode on an iPhone, then I would understand it's a big deal. But for an iPad, I think it's okay. And the fingerprint sensor is also there, and it works a lot many of the times, even if not all the time. So it's not a con for me to say, but the fingerprint scanner could have definitely been much better, much faster, like it was on the iPhones, previous iPhones. So this is something I think which needs to be improved in future devices, but this is an hardware thing, so it will definitely never improve. So if that thing is really important to you, do keep this in mind that it does not work most of the times. Now the next thing is about the battery life on this iPad Air 4. So the battery standby time, I would say, is really good. I mean, see, my usage is not that continuous with this, and whenever I want to edit a video, or whenever I want to record a music cover or some audio using BandLab, only that time I pick up this iPad, and I have observed that 3 to 4 days standby time is there. It usually lasts for up to 3 to 4 days just without any charge and without much of a usage. But the screen on time is that not that much. For example, I had just charged this to 100%, and just up till now in this video, I have just opened the notes app to just refer to all the points, and by this time I have lost about 4% of the battery life already. And if I'm doing some task, it's fine, like video editing or something. But if watching media on this device, if you're watching continuously, then it would last for a couple of hours, 2 3 hours or so. But after that, you would need to charge it. So the battery life isn't like great or anything, but it's more than enough, I would say. And especially if you're not continuously carrying your iPad and using it on uh, uh, and yes, let me just tell you also that this is only the Wi-Fi version and not the cellular. So I don't have any SIM in this. If there was a SIM, battery life would have been worse. But with just the Wi-Fi, the battery life is just enough for me for my usage. But if I was a more heavy user, then I would need to charge it almost daily. Now let me quickly talk about the Apple Pencil second generation with this iPad Air 4. Now the latency factor is one thing that I really want to mention. So when it comes to my usage, I am not doing heavy graphic designing or anything with this. So the latency thing, I really don't feel that much. But if you're into that thing, then you might feel that latency, but you would definitely get used to it. So latency is not one thing that you can count as a con. But the accuracy thing, I would say, is that if you're not a heavy Apple Pencil user, then accuracy is not something that would bother you. But if you're a heavy graphic designer, or you small accurate points are really important for you to design something, or in architectural purposes and stuff, definitely I would suggest go for the higher versions. Or accuracy needs to be improved. It's not that accurate on the screen as well. But the charging of this Apple Pencil, I mean, the magnetic charge really works fast. It really gets up to 100% really quickly. And that is something that I think for users like me, for medium users who are not using this for like ultimate pro purposes, then I think it's more than enough. It does not require to be better than this. But yeah, there is one con that I want to mention is about the usability. There is a lot of learning curve to using this Apple Pencil, especially in the Notes app. I take a lot of notes, especially for videos like these, and I have found myself going back to the keypad most of the times because uh, just writing on this, it does detect text really well, but it's a bit slower, and I think just using the keypad is faster for me. But yes, if you practice more with this Apple Pencil, then you would get used to it. And but the usability is still something that requires a lot of, it has a bit of a learning curve, so do keep that in mind. But otherwise, this is I think more than enough for medium usages. Now, the next thing is about the storage that this comes with. So I have the 64 gigs version because I did not plan to store a lot of media on this device. But I would suggest that go for a higher version, storage version, because 64 is usually not enough if you're a medium or a pro user. It's definitely not enough, because even for me, what happens is whenever I edit videos on this, I have to take care of the space, because usually if I record in HDR and YouTube videos like this for the A roll, it's mostly it takes up about 10 GB or so, just for the A roll. For B-roll clips, again, if it's in HDR, each clip is about 200 or 500 MB or 1 GB. So for just editing one video, it takes up all the storage, and after uploading that video, I have to free up my storage. So if you don't have any iCloud plan as such, then it's better, I would say, to go for a higher storage model and not the 64 gigs version. I also have another video that if is 64 gig enough, do check that out as well. I'll put the link in the description below. But definitely for this iPad, if your usage is not just media consumption, then I would suggest to go for a higher storage version. Now, let me just talk about the speakers of this. The speakers are not that loud, but I think they are okay for the job. But if you're doing some audio editing, I always plug this into my Bluetooth headsets. I never use the speakers because they take away some of the bass and don't have all the frequencies in them. So definitely speakers are nothing that you can use for professional purposes, but for media consumption, they are just fine. Let me just play a sample for you for better understanding.
Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah. No, I don't wanna waste what's left.
The next topic is about the camera, the back and front cameras. Now, I usually don't talk about specs, and I still won't, but the back camera is amazing, I would say. Some YouTube videos also I have recorded in 4K, 30, 4K, 60, especially the B rolls. If you have ample of light, then the camera is amazing for that. It takes a lot of good photos and also videos, but low light is where it takes a hit and also it lacks focus. So in low light, it usually would be hunting for focus, and you have to tap to focus to lock focus on some object that you want. And this issue is only in indoor or low light situations. For outdoor situations, I think it's more than enough. So even while recording B-roll clips, if I have ample of light, I just use a light source to record B-rolls, and I'm able to record B-roll videos really well with the back camera of this device. Now coming to the front camera is average, I would say. For video calls, it's still okay, but nothing more than that. The quality is not that good, and I think most people would just use it for video calls, and that should be okay. But if you're planning on recording a video from the front camera, then this definitely is not an option. Even if you have ample light source, it is just a bit grainy, and you can record only up to 1080p, not to 4K, not in 4K on the front camera. As of now, I'm recording from the front camera. It looks pretty good. I think they have improved on the software front, I would say, because it looks good. Recording from the back camera. This is not that stable, especially in the viewfinder, but the final output of the video comes okay. It comes stable, but it's still grainy in indoor light conditions. This is in 4K. Now the next thing is about the performance. Now this comes with the A14 Bionic chip, which is the same one in iPhone 12 series. And I would say that the performance on this iPad Air 4 is fairly adequate for most purposes. I did not see any lag as such or anything, but sometimes while gaming there were some frame drops, and also while 4K 60 FPS video editing in LumaFusion, I did face some stutters sometimes, not always, and especially if I think this is an issue with LumaFusion also, that if you are reversing the video or if you're increasing or decreasing the speed of the video, then the performance takes a big hit. This can be an issue of LumaFusion as well, but it's more prevalent on this iPad Air 4. So 4K 60 editing and uh, heavy video editing is not something that is fluent, but is pretty much doable on this device. 4K 30 is a breeze, just like it is on iPhone, any iPhone to say. So mostly I did 4K with 30 FPS videos, and for that I think it's more than enough for me. And also I would say I've also mentioned that I use this to record music using BandLab, and I would say this is a really good device to record music. I think if you're not doing like heavy professional music recording or anything, I think this is a good device for you. Uh, so if you're just recording covers, if you're just recording a couple of layers of guitar and bass and some percussion drums, I think paired with the USB interface that I have, Focusrite interface, I think this is a good platform to record music as well. So if you don't have a professional high-end laptop for music recording and editing purposes, this also can serve as a good alternative for you, because I am using this, and it's not some pro high-level music recording, but still it's really good, more than enough for my usage for recording covers, and it really gives good output as well. And even after a lot of layers of audio, I did not see any stutter or lag. and I'm able to accurately sync and mix all my audio tracks. So this serves as a really good platform for me. Now coming to the conclusion and the main part of this video, like should you go for the iPad mini or should you go for the iPad Air 4, because they are almost the same price, and even if the price of this will drop, the prices would be exactly similar of both the devices, I think. So see, there are only a couple of differences in the iPad mini and the iPad Air 4. One thing I want to point out is center stage. So if you do a lot of Zoom calls with your iPad, then that center stage really helps, and it uses an ultra wide front camera angle. Sorry, front camera. It uses an ultra wide camera to actually zoom in and move as you move. It tracks you, and it becomes a bit easier for Zoom calls if you're also like doing some other stuff, and it gives you that much flexibility to move. So that feature is there only in the iPad mini and not the iPad Air 4. But if you don't do a lot of Zoom calls, and especially that is like an on top feature that you get center stage. Now mostly, I mean, most people do not really roam around while they're on a video call. I mean, if you're on a Zoom call or professional Zoom calls as well, mostly people sit on one place on one seat. So this camera is more than enough for that. But still, if you want that center stage, then that is there only in the iPad mini 2021 edition. And there is also one other thing, is that the iPad mini has the A15 Bionic chip. So the A15 Bionic chip is in the newer iPhones, iPhone 13. The performance leap, I would say, from the A14 to A15 is not that great. So it only gives like an incremental performance boost, even though the benchmarks say that. But in real world usage, the A14 does not lag behind or anything in any activities. So even if you're a professional, even if you're going to use your iPad for heavy professional uses like graphic designing, game designing, or any of those sorts, then also I think the A14 is more than enough for you. But the A15 still is a tad bit better, and in a certain cases it would slightly perform a bit better. So if you are going to use for a heavy pro use, so definitely for pro users, I don't think they would actually go for a mini device, because screen real estate is also important. That screen size of the mini is mini because it's a small device. So I think still for pro users also, this iPad Air 4 would be a better choice. And even 1 year down the line, I haven't seen any performance degradation with this device. It performs really well. And to be honest, it's as good as new for me, because I don't see any performance degradation or any sort of lagginess or anything even after 1 year. So for most users out there, this iPad Air 4 is more than enough. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, do mention those in the comment section below. I will answer those, and subscribe to my channel for more such content and reviews. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.